I don't want my daughter to have a miserable mom. And I think that played a big part into it because not all the time, but I was miserable working at a desk every single day. For the past 15 years, it just was not the environment for me. I just didn't know what else to do. So I felt very stuck.
Welcome to The Career Flipper, a weekly podcast featuring career change stories from people all around the world in all kinds of industries. We talk about how they get from point A to point B and all the twists and turns in between. If you've been thinking about switching careers, consider this your permission slip. I'm your host, Jenny Dempsey, a career flipper myself. After many years working in customer service and experience leadership in the tech startup world, I got laid off and stumbled into furniture flipping, taking pieces headed for the trash and giving them a second chance at life. If you're into that sort of thing, check out my makeovers over on Instagram and TikTok under San Diego Furniture Flipper. I started this podcast because I felt really weird and alone when I switched from tech to furniture restoration. But as I've been flipping my own career, I've discovered that I'm not the only one making big changes. So I figured, why not talk to others and have them share their stories? We all have a lot to learn from one another. So I hope these episodes give you a little actionable boost of inspiration for your own career journey. Okay, quick question for you. Have you ever walked down the street and spotted a pile of dog doo just sitting there? Even with dog doo bags available from the city or the apartment complex, some folks just don't bother to pick it up. It's gross, right? And let's be real, nobody wants that mess ending up on their shoes. Now, let me introduce you to Courtney Copeland. She made a big career flip, leaving her corporate marketing job after over a decade to start her own dog waste removal service, SD Scoop Squad, here in sunny San Diego, California. Courtney's journey is pretty inspiring. She shares how her love for dogs and desire to tackle this crappy problem led her to her next career step. You might think, who really uses that? Isn't that a bit bougie? Can't people just pick up after their pets? But you'd be surprised at how many people genuinely need this service, whether it's someone with a disability who just can't bend down, or folks who can't be bothered to use the free bags provided. There's a real need out there. Courtney is out there making a difference, one scoop at a time, in helping pet owners keep their spaces clean and enjoyable. It's all about turning a problem into an opportunity and making life a little easier for everyone. So get ready to scoop up some great insights in this episode. Let's get into it now. I think I actually need to change the title of this episode to Following the Duties, Following Your Dreams. Courtney, it's so good to have you here. Thank you for being here. Tell everyone about you.
So I am Courtney Copeland. I am the owner of San Diego Scoop Squad. We are a dog waste removal service for both residential and commercial properties. So backyards, apartment complexes, HOAs, waste stations, all that fun poop stuff. And and I started my business 3 years ago, back in August 2021.
Well, congrats on 3 incredible years. I was trying to think of a fun poop pun I could add in, but I can't think of anything. We found each other on Instagram. Well, I think I found you. I saw a post. I'm a huge dog lover. And I was just intrigued. Like, someone actually has this as a business? That's incredible. How does someone do that? So... I'm just excited for you to jump into your career flip. So how did you get started doing this, Courtney?
So I worked in corporate America for 15 years previously. So I graduated high school, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I tried going to college, community college, for a year, and it just was not for me. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with that. And my mom is a very school-oriented person. And, she's like, okay, well, if you don't re-register for school, then you got to get a good job. So right. Back where I'm from in Connecticut, there's a big helicopter company that a lot of people work at. And I got a job there. My grandfather retired from there. My aunt and uncle at the time time work there. And I ended up working there for 10 years. I worked a lot of long hours. I worked in the proposal department, putting together multi-million dollar proposals for helicopters. And the burnout was real very early on there. But, I loved who I was working with, like the people that I was working with. So I think that helped me get through. But the whole time I was there, I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there. And I kind of feel a little fraudulent being on a Career Flipper podcast because for me, that's not a career for me. It was a job, right? Even though I was there for 10 years, it didn't feel right saying, this is my career, because it just didn't feel right. So after 10 years there, I moved to San Diego. And then I worked at a electrical contractor for 5 years. So another corporate job working in marketing. And even there, again, I just couldn't find any passion for what I was doing. And rewind a little bit, I did go to school for massage therapy back in Connecticut about 10 years ago. And because I was like, I want to do something that helps people. I want to be using my hands. And I went through the whole program, got licensed, and never took that leap because it was scary. It was scary because I had a secure job and I didn't know how building a clientele would be in the massage world or how good the money would be, because for me, security financially is everything. I grew up from humble beginnings, and I feel like that kind of gets ingrained in your mind that you need to have a good job so that you could live. So I never took that leap, even though I went through the whole program. But it was kind of like something that in my mind was like, okay, this is an option. I don't have to stay at this desk job that I don't like. There's other options out there, even though I didn't pursue it. But now, once I was in San Diego, it was 2020, and I found out I was pregnant right before COVID hit. And so my husband and I started working from home side by side. He was doing his job, I was doing my marketing job. And all we really did was go for long walks with our dogs around our apartment complex. And this wasn't the first apartment that I ever noticed it at, but there was dog poop everywhere. And I was like, what is happening? Like, there's dog poop bags, there's like waste stations, and it was just everywhere. And I would be picking it up, for people. And I did this at previous apartments too, but it never like gave me any light bulb moments, right? But I was heavily pregnant at this point, and I said, I'm going to start a poop scooping business. And I absolutely not knowing if that was even a thing, right? I had no clue if that was a service that was provided. I just thought I made it up in my head, right? Which is completely false. This industry has actually been around for 30 to 40 years, which is shocking to most. Yeah, there's a guy in LA actually that started, I believe, 30 to 40 years ago. I don't know if it was because I was expecting a child and, it kind of shifts your mind about what you want in your life. But I started doing my research on poop scooping, and I found a YouTube channel. This woman, Erica Krupin in Michigan, and she has this whole YouTube channel about how she used to work in the hospital setting. And then she started her poop scooping business, and she basically shared all the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the money, right? And for me, that was an important part of it. It's not everything, but for me, I need that security of knowing if I'm going to do this, this is an actual thing. This could, bring in good money. It's sustainable, right? So for me, that was important because I'm such a safety, security type of person. I would have probably worked in corporate America for the rest of my life because it was a job with benefits and all of that good stuff, right? But once I started doing my research, I would take notes, and I would the more I watched these videos, the more I was like, wow, like I think I could do this.
Mhm.
And I brought it to my husband and like, look at these receipts. Like I
Yeah.
brought the receipts, right?
Yeah.
This is not some crazy out of the box. It is kind of out of the box, but it's not crazy to think that this could work.
Mhm.
And, he supported me, and I didn't start my business for like a whole another year, because I had a daughter at that time, and now it's real. Like I have a child that I have to take care of
Right.
now. But I think also in the back of my mind was I don't want my daughter to have a miserable mom. And I think that played a big part into it, because not all the time, but I was miserable working at a desk every single day. For the past 15 years, it just was not the environment for me. I just didn't know what else to do. So I felt very stuck. So I feel like that played a big part of actually taking the leap, and starting my business. I I started in August 2021. I, did all my branding, and because I worked in marketing, I knew some type of graphic design ish. So I brought that into it, right? I made poop kind of pretty with my branding.
Do a
And
great
I
job.
posted on Instagram like I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. I didn't know what I was doing at all. But having some research behind, the business side of things, that helped me to kind of make those moves and grow the business. And 8 months into starting the business, I was able to quit my corporate job. Yeah, I wasn't making as much as my job, but it was like, wow, that we are doing something. Our clientele is growing. It's a recurring revenue with the business, right? We have these weekly clients that we have that pay a monthly subscription, basically, and that's how we grow. Yeah, I was able to just quit and go full time, and it's exploded since.
Okay, so you were miserable at your corporate job. You knew you needed to make a change, but you weren't entirely sure how. So you started to research and you started to read through this research, watch videos, and realize that these were things that you could actually see yourself doing. And you have that like stability mindset, which is smart. We need money. And when you're a parent and you have a family, and there are things that we're responsible for. So you didn't necessarily want to just take a leap without having the financial backing, because that would just go against you, your core beliefs, your values. So, you know, you took this risk very calculated. And I think the other thing that stands out to me is you bring up the difference between career and job and how we define it for ourselves, because you know, sometimes it's okay to just have a job that's just a paycheck. It doesn't, we show up, we do great work, and we leave. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily what lights us up, but it does pay our bills. And in some ways, I like to say it funds our dreams for things that we're doing outside of work. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that it encourages us to dream outside of, work. It encourages us to be more and realize that we're more than just our jobs. So I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit more about when you realized that this job was just a job and maybe not what you wanted on your actual career path? Because I think a lot of people listening would, are thinking about these things, but may not have the insight, or intuition to these answers yet.
Yeah. So, one comment that I received from a VP, which that's a whole other subject of kind of the belittling, um, sometimes harassment, and other things within corporate America that is not talked about a lot. But one comment I got at a fancy event down in Miami for this company was, hey, Courtney, if you want to move up here, you really got to go back to school. In my head, I really wanted to say back, who told you I wanted to move up here?
Yeah. Mhm.
Because I'm just like, first of all, you don't know anything about me besides that I don't have a degree.
Mhm.
You know, it was like a new VP. He just looked at everyone's kind of like whatever cards that they had and said, "Oh, well, this girl doesn't have a degree, so let me go tell her she can't move up here until she gets one." And it was just, and that was just one of many comments that I received when revolving around my education or lack of education. And it was, it could it could hurt someone and their confidence and their self-worth and all of that stuff, and it did for me for many years. But for some reason that comment was like, I never said I wanted to move up here, because I don't. And that was my like awakening moment where I'm like, this is a job for me. This is a paycheck until I figure out what the heck I want to do with my life. And I think that was the hardest part for me, was finding whatever it was that I was passionate about so that I could leave, so that I could go do that thing. And I mean, I would never guess it would be dog poop, but here we are. But I think that was definitely a pivotal moment for me, just trying to combat those comments, from upper management, stuff like that. Yeah, I kind of wish I said it. I kind of wish I actually said it out loud, but I didn't. But that for me, that was a big moment.
Yeah, I can see how that would be such a big moment, having that realization and just knowing that there was something else. I've had some guests on, and even for myself, people to kind of describe it of like there's just this nagging feeling that something else, like there's something there. I kind of equate it to like, when you got something on your to-do list, but you didn't write it down and you just can't remember what it is. It's on the tip of your tongue. You're like, I know I need to do this. There's something important I need to do. I can't remember what it is. And it feels similar. I don't know, this feeling that nags you. So it's kind of just how I describe it. And I completely relate to what you said. You didn't know that this feeling inside was going to be poop. I didn't know that, I was going to find my, my business in the trash. I think it's funny things like this that, when we're looking for that thing that that we think we want to do, to look in the most unexpected places. It's sometimes it can shock us. And to be honest, cookie crumb wise, like during COVID, there's like these buy nothing Facebook groups, buy nothing, sell nothing groups. And a lot of people give things away that they don't need, a lot of junky things, a lot of great things. But I was really interested in these like junky pieces of furniture. And I don't even know where that came from, but we had a lot of time during COVID, and people were giving things away. So I took them in. I lived in an apartment. I didn't even have a garage at that time. And I didn't have any tools. And I was just like watching a couple of videos and then painting or staining or sanding things. And it was just for my own furniture use. But I didn't think that thing would be something that I would return to, at another place. And just like you were walking through the apartment complex, seeing piles of poop everywhere, you didn't think that would be, something that you end up turning into a career.
Yeah, and it totally is. And I love what you're doing because I love the creativity, right? I actually had a Etsy business also at a time making bracelets, which I'm wearing one of them. And I would do like painting and wood burning and stuff like that creative side, which I really loved. And I think that's the path I really, really, really wanted for myself. And it just never was sustainable. It was a lot of hours working on something for not much in return, right? For me, when it came to what I'm doing, the poop scooping, I think I brought in my love for researching things once that light bulb moment came. And, there is not much content out there for poop scooping, but there was a few people out there making content. And I'm glad, because I don't think I would have gone for it if I did not see that it was a sustainable thing. So I think doing the research, which I really love doing as well, and just knowing that it's a problem that needs to be solved. And it was those apartment complexes that really brought light to the idea of the business. However, 99% of my clients are residential. So now my new fight is showing the value to these apartment and HOA communities on how important this service is, just as important as pool services, landscaping, all of those things. The poop scooping, dog waste removal, consistent dog waste removal is crucial because this is a hazardous waste that needs to be picked up. And I know that people should be doing it themselves, but they're not. And that's not going to change. And I feel like that's my next task that I'd have to do in my own business, is really trying to get across that value, because I saw it so long ago and it did spark something in me, but that plays a big part into, my passion of the business, right? Like my passion is, this is a problem, I want to solve it, you need to hire me, right? But also back to the creative side, I love that I am not in a box when it comes to my social media. I get to create the content that I want. That was another thing when I worked in marketing at my last job, is I did the social media for the company there. Yeah. But it was like, be creative, but stay in this box. Yeah. Right? Yep. You're always in a box. You could have all these great ideas, but someone's gonna know it to you and be like, no, you cannot post that. Right? So, but for me, my business, of course, I'm not going to go absolutely nuts with my postings, but I am no longer having to answer to someone else when it comes to my creativity in that sense. As much as the business is not creative for me, really, I still get to have that creative piece, which I think helps that side of me that really wanted to work in the creative space. So I think that has helped me as well.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think the important thing I want to call out that you mentioned, and that I think I kind of hinted at before too, we're on that same wavelength, but those cookie crumbs of things that we learn along the way, where maybe, something we were doing wasn't the best fit for us, but it becomes something that helps us in the future, whether it's a skill, a network connection, I don't know, a new job, a new talent, like whatever it is, it eventually finds its way back to us.
Yeah, and that's where my passion, I think, comes into this, because from the very beginning, when I first started my business, I got a lot of really rude, mean comments, especially when I would run ads on Facebook. Just, they call them Facebook trolls for a reason. But my skin was not very thick then. And I would literally cry about these comments, because I knew what we were doing. I knew who we were helping. And I didn't want people to see these comments and be deterred or feel shame about hiring a service like ours, which I feel like there is still shame behind it, because it's not as known of a service like landscaping or house cleaning, right? People hire those services all the time. So I feel like my passion has just grown for that just kind of making it known what we do, who we help, and why we do what we do. Because I feel like the more we get that message out there, the more it'll be normalized to hire a service like ours, and people won't feel the shame behind it, right? We've cleaned some very, very bad yards. But even in those times, you could tell the person is embarrassed or feels some type of way. And I always say to them, we've seen it all. Just because you need to help them feel a little bit better about the situation, but you also need to share, like, we are here to help you now. Like, we're not going to let it get like this again. We can come every single week and it will never be like this again if you continue on with our service. But there's just a lot of, stigma behind it. And I just want to be part of the, way of breaking the stigmas. So I'm glad that, I can go on my own social media and keep it real. You got to get the message out there in a way that people can digest it. I just feel like a lot of people can't think outside of themselves a lot of time for what they're able to do. And it's just the quick judgment, the quick comments. So I'm just working on trying to break that apart so it doesn't happen anymore.
Right. Yeah, that sometimes that can be what holds someone back from taking any risks, whether it's a career, business, or anything in life. That judgment from others, Facebook trolls, family, friends, just society in general. Someone at the grocery store makes a comment. I don't know. And it really just sounds like your support network, like your husband was all in. Was there anyone in your life, in your personal network, that maybe wasn't as supportive as when you took the job, when you took the leave from the stable job to starting this?
Thankfully, no. My parents just moved out here last year too, and they've been like, my mom especially is super supportive. Like she's out there handing my cards out to anyone that will take one, right? Like super, and she always has been, right? Even from that first story of, well, if you're not going to go back to school, you need to get a good job. Everything that I've done in my life since, she's always supported. Right. Like as much as I didn't go to school and she probably would have loved for me to go to school, I still was like doing things to better my life or whatever. So she's been a huge support. I think the only weird thoughts probably came from people at my job, because I actually got my car wrapped before I left. Yeah, I had my poop mobile coming into the parking lot at work. I was telling everyone, this is my plan. I told my direct boss, Cynthia, like what I was doing. She knew that what I was doing there was not for me. But I was there because I was there for 5 years, and it was still like, if I'm not interested in it anymore, I don't want to do it. Like that's kind of where it came down to. But she knew what was up. But I think when I told people, hey, just put in my notice, going to do this poop scooping, I think they all were like, wait, what? Like they probably were like, well, good luck with that. But they don't know the possibilities, right, of it. I knew the possibilities of it. I knew how far I could take it. And that's all that really mattered to me when it came to that. I think I was just more sensitive to like the stranger comments than anyone else's, because I didn't really get any negative comments in person from people I knew.
Yeah, I totally get that. Kind of ruminating on comments from strangers. Why do those have more impact? It makes zero sense. But I mean, having the support and knowing that, okay, I'm doing this, and I know that people that I love, that love me, are behind me, it really gives us, I don't know, courage. Maybe that's not the right word, but that's what's popping in my mind right now, to really move forward. And when you do take that leap, I'm going to jump around on my questions for a second, but stability mindset, I really feel that. I think sometimes people will, mention that they feel this too, and they're not able or not willing to, or, risk what they have because, who knows? Like you need your benefits, you need a stable paycheck to pay your bills. And without that, it's terrifying. And it was really challenging for me at first after getting laid off and not having that and not being able to find a job. I was like, okay, like I just need to be resourceful. I have to figure out what I'm going to do, because I can't go back. I can't go back to being burnt out and stressed just for this stability that I just learned is no longer really stable. Like it really shook my foundation, because I thought that it was. I thought I was set for my career. I thought this is what I was doing. And to just be, laid off, and I know the business had their reasons, but in laying everyone off that got laid off, it wasn't just me during that time, but, it's really all in our head, stability. And trying to shift our perspective on that sometimes takes something to really smack us in the face,
Exactly. I feel like a lot of times we forget that we're just a number at these companies, right? Versus if you own your own business, it's in your hands now. Your destiny is in your hands. How hard you want to work is up to you. How much money you want to make is up to you. But I feel like the sky's the limit when you're running your own business versus at companies, there's a ceiling, right? Like I was at a ceiling and I didn't want to go back to school to go past whatever ceiling they gave me. Versus with my business, I could stay as small as I want to or grow as big as I want to. It's going to take a lot of work to grow to that high point. But if I wanted to just keep it in the family, I could have just stayed at a lower clientele, right? But I don't want to. So now I have 2 employees, and now I'm providing jobs for them where one of my employees tells me this is the best job she's ever had. I'm like, that like makes me feel so good. You know, like that makes me want to cry because it's like I built that, you know what I mean? And I'm providing a job to someone that also did a career flip for herself. You know, she was a trained chef and she lost her passion for it. You know, now she's doing something. She loves dogs. I love dogs too. Like I get it. You know what I mean? Like, and she loves the job that she has working for us. So that means like so much more than anything else. But yeah, you're completely right when it comes to, you know, we have this, it's like a false security at jobs, right? Like I saw when I was back in Connecticut at the helicopter company, I saw so many layoffs, so many, but I was cheap labor. I was cheap labor. They weren't going to get rid of me. I wasn't really worried, but like I saw so many where I'm just like, that just like completely flips people's lives, right? People that have families, you know what I mean? Stuff like that, where now my business, okay, like it's in my hands. No one can do this to me but myself. The beginning of this year, we lost 25 clients, which is huge for us because our churn rate is pretty low because, you know, people get used to the service and, you know, we try to make it easier for their lives. But 25 people moved out of state. So I couldn't really help that, right? But that was like, oh, like that hurt me because it was out of my control. But we've built it back up, right? So it's in your hands if you decide to do something else. It's no longer in someone else's hands. You're no longer a number, you're number one. And I think people need to remember that. It's a bit heartbreaking because like you put your all into that and then it's like the next day, they're like, sorry.
Right. It's business. That's business.
It's business. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you've given so much of your time and energy to a company doing work that you thought mattered, that you thought made an impact. I'm one of those people that wants to do work that makes an impact. Anything I do, whether it's customer service, I'm serving coffee, I'm answering an email, like I want to make sure I'm making a good impact on whoever's day that I'm serving. That's just how I operate. I can't seem to change that. I'm a helper. But you know, you're doing all these things and then suddenly to have the realization that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to this company. You know, they're going to do what makes sense for the business. And when you do your own thing, you get to call the shots. You get to make those choices. And this is really what I've been realizing over the past year and a half. You know, it's fulfilling. It's terrifying to take your own path and make these decisions on your own. And then when it comes to social media, where you build a lot of the community of customers, you know, future clients, word of mouth referrals, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. and I've been doing this forever and I still don't know what I'm doing. And I feel like, you know, when I post, I get caught up in the comparison trap. Oh, it doesn't look like so-and-so's post. Are people even going to like this? Is this dumb? And I'm really trying to work on not caring and just putting out there something that I like, and experimenting. And I really think the experimenting becomes the fun part because that's where you build the community. You show up, you learn, okay, this didn't quite hit as well as I thought it would, but this one did. And here's what people are saying and what can we learn from it? And you know, it's a great opportunity to build a community and supporters of what we're doing.
I feel like, especially when it comes to Instagram, and I have a very large network of fellow scoopers. You wouldn't believe it, but we are in like Facebook groups, other groups, you know, and we like share what works for us and everything. And I constantly try to drill in that how important Instagram is. And people are like, well, how many clients have you gotten from it? I said, it's not even about that. It's about the community that you make. I said, you know, I posted like crazy when I first started, just kind of doing what I could, what was entertaining, what would get people engaged. But then you come across other fellow business owners, especially for my industry, fellow pet industry business owners, dog walkers, dog trainers, doggy daycares. One of my good friends is a dog photographer, which I met her in a Facebook group. This is the community that needs to be built especially if you're a local service, right? Because these are the people that get to know you. And I tell people, just be yourself on Instagram when you make videos and stuff, because people get to know you. They trust you. You're not just a business name. You're not just a logo behind this business page. You're a person behind it. You're the passion behind it, right? And people are going to see that. And they're going to want, even like you said, even if they don't use my service, if they know of someone that has a dog poo problem, who are they going to tell? They're going to mention us, right? And then same for them. Right? Like I love to share other people's stuff too, because that's what we're here for. We're here to like support each other. It's completely free. And that's what I try to tell people. It's free to support others, your friends, fellow business owners, right? So I try to drill in how important Instagram is just for building that network. Like we met, like you said, through Instagram. So I think I know what it was.
Okay.
So I think the junk removal.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I think they shared one of our videos, and I think that's how you might have found us.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I did a partnership with the Junk MD here in
Junk
St.
MD, yes.
Brought me a dresser. And yeah. And so I've been following them. They're incredible as well. Love them.
Right.
Shout out to them. And that is cool. Yeah, that it definitely must have been it.
Right. And I use this example for someone that I was trying to, because they're like, I don't want to get on Instagram, a fellow scooper, but I'm just like, just try it. But like, don't salesy like salesy posts, right? No one wants to see that. They want to see you. They want to see the personality behind you. And that's how you really build like a true community on there that is, willing to back you up. Like when I get mean comments and stuff. I have a dog trainer that has like a lot of disabled clients that she's like, this service is great for that. You know what I mean? I don't ask people to support me like that, but they step up and do that for me, which is really nice in those moments.
Yeah. Power of community is
so important.
And if that,
especially on Instagram.
Yes. Agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. And speaking of showing up as yourself, one of the other things that you mentioned that stood out, there are a lot of career flipping parents listening in. And I know that from hearing their stories, a lot of the choices that they made happened when they had kids. It really opened their eyes to how they want to spend their time. And, you mentioned with your daughter, and can you just talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's really important and relatable and special. Setting the example of making choices, these calculated risks that we're taking, that are hard, and trying to juggle multiple things and still be there for her. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So I started a business just before she turned 1.
Okay.
So yeah, it was tough because we didn't have family here either. We had no support system here to help babysit. It was just my husband and I, and my husband was working 4 a.m. to noon at his job, and then he would scoop every afternoon for me.
Yeah.
Still sometimes does. And then I would work my 8 to 5 job during the week. And then on the weekends, I would scoop. I did receive some comments where it was like, well, you're not spending time with your daughter during this time. And I'm just like, whoa. I'm thinking of the bigger picture, right? Like, first of all, she gets to spend time with her dad when I'm gone, because we all know mom is mom, right? You're typically the go-to parent, right? But if I'm not there, now they can have their special bonding time. And 2, like, I'm thinking of our future, right? If this is the sacrifice I have to make right now for a year, 2 years, to build this business, it's going to be worth it, especially she's at a young age. She's not going to remember that mommy was out working all the time. Right. But like for me, my mom worked a lot too. You know, she worked a lot, but she did what she had to do, to build her career. Right. And I don't remember that. You know what I mean? I was so young. So for me, it was tough. It was tough, I think, more with the leap of leaving a secure job, quote unquote. But like we said, they're not always secure, but it's just that false security of I have a job and benefits and we're good versus a business where, you know, it can be unknown, especially in the beginning. I just feel like I always say, if you do your research and you know you have a plan, you can do what you want to do and make it work. It's not going to be some like literally jumping off a cliff because you don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't suggest that. I don't.
Right.
I don't suggest not really knowing what you're getting yourself into. But I feel like if you have that like backup information to put into what you want to do, you'll be good. And I feel like there's a fire under it, right? There's a fire to do well, to provide for your family, and for me to, you know, show my daughter, even though she's so young, that you don't have to stay somewhere that you don't want to be. You don't have to stay somewhere where you're miserable. And I feel like that was important for me, even though she's so young, she doesn't see that quite yet. But hopefully down the road, you know, when we tell her how it went, she will see that. But I think that was important for me because of how long I stayed somewhere that I was not happy, in an environment that made me, you know, miserable. Back to like, there was like some sexual harassment, regular harassment, just the comments about education, these environments that are so unhealthy, that are not talked about. I don't want her to ever feel she has to stay somewhere like that, like I did. Right. So, I created an environment where I never have to deal with that again. I never have to deal with those comments. You know what I mean? And I think that was really important for me too, to kind of back up my leap. It's okay to make a change as long as you are prepared for it. Like, you just prepare yourself. And I always say, like, one of my favorite quotes is, like, for me, when I was working at my job for that full year before I started my business, and even the 8 months that I was still at my job, was never quit your daydream. Because if there's something that you just cannot stop thinking about, you can't stop thinking about it, put your effort into that, because there's a reason why that you're daydreaming about it. So yeah, don't quit your daydream. And I know as a parent, it's hard, but you have to think of that bigger picture. Your kids will be okay. You will be okay, and your kids will be okay, as long as you plan properly and do your research. Right. And I feel like a lot of times too, you know, moms tend to lose themselves in parenthood and doing all the things, right? Like, we have to remember we are people too.
Yeah.
Like, our feelings and our dreams matter. It's not just our kids' dreams now, right? We're still, you know, I was 3 when I started my business. So, you know, that's older, but it's also young for some, right? Like, it is what people are going to think, they're too old, whatever. But you just have to remember that you are also a living human being that has feelings and should do the things that they want to do, not just put all that stuff behind you because you feel like you can't anymore. You know, I feel like that's important, especially for moms. You know, your wants and needs matter too.
Well said. Courtney, that's a great way to wrap this up. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Career Flipper and talking crap with me today. Sorry. I know I couldn't resist. Okay, I'm done with the puns. But really, I'm so inspired by you and your journey, and I'm very grateful for you being on the show. And I want people to connect with you here in San Diego and beyond. How can they find you? How can they reach you?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram, like we mentioned. My username is SD Scoop Squad, and that's my username on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or you could visit our website, www.sdscoopsquad.com. The SD is for San Diego. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Career Flipper. Be sure to connect with Courtney using the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend who might need a little inspiration at work. Make sure to subscribe for more flippin' episodes like Courtney's every week. And if you have a second, leaving a review might seem small, but it really helps the show reach more career flippers around the world. And if you have a career flip story of your own that you'd like to share in a future episode, tell me about it. Send me an email, hello@thecareerflipper.com. If you're thinking about switching into customer service or maybe just leveling up your customer service skills in your own new business, I have my online courses with tips from my years and years of working in customer experience leadership. Over 14,000 students have already taken them, and they're rated pretty high. So if you want to see Corporate Jenny in her old element, head over to thecareerflipper.com/courses to check them out. What I love most about doing this podcast is the chance that maybe one of these stories might be the spark that someone needs to break free from feeling stuck and finally taking that first step toward their dreams. That first step is really tough. I know, I'm right there with you, but it's so worth it. Whether it helps you grow or opens doors to something you never imagined possible, it's a step that can really change everything. So keep on your path, my friend. What's the best that could happen?